Happy Saturday, Yvonne Arnold, the Arnold Group. And I just have been buried and I said, it's time I get a video out to my very special past clients, my sphere of influence, anybody I've ever come in contact with. You need to know about this crazy housing market. So it has been absolutely bonkers. I don't even know really where to start, but let's start with 2020 being the craziest years most of us have ever experienced, and what has led into 2021. So at the beginning of 2020, we knew that the market was doing pretty well. We had inventory, we didn't have a lot of buyers, that there was still people could buy a house, didn't have to compete too hard with other buyers. That was January, February of 2020. We were starting to see a little bit of normalcy happen in our market. And then all of a sudden, you all know what happened. Pandemic hit and everything shut down. Literally, our showings from February to March, April, and May, they dropped by drastic percentages because we were dealing with how do we get people in to see houses with a pandemic, right? We have overcome a lot of that, and we overcame it pretty quickly right around the first opening of the market. So when they started opening up and letting people kind of go back to restaurants and go back and do things and going back to work, the real estate industry was always considered essential. So we had already kind of evolved with wearing gloves and masks and disinfectant and lots of Clorox wipes, wiping down houses, only 2 people in a house at a time to see a house. We asked the sellers to leave the property and not be there during showings. So we adapted and pivoted, and it worked really well. And then what we saw in June of last year is it went nuts. The pent-up demand for buying properties was massive. People were stuck in their houses and going, I can't live in a small house anymore. I need a bigger house. They were doing a lot of remodels of the houses that they own now. So Home Depot sales went way up. Lots of things occurred. And then we fast forward to now January of 2021 and now March, coming into March. We have some of the lowest inventory levels I, as a 30-year veteran agent, have ever seen. Back in 2013, after the foreclosure debacle, the lawsuit with the banks and the big REO companies, foreclosure companies, and the government, we saw a drop in inventory similar to what we see right now. We had less than 2 months of inventory. So that meant multiple offers on properties. That meant 15, 20 offers on one house. That was 2013. Well, fast forward to 2021, we are seeing the exact same thing, but on steroids, okay? Seriously, it is nuts. So give you an example. I put a home on the market and we have a process now. I literally ask my sellers if they're still living in the house, we're going to launch your house for sale on a Thursday night. I need you to plan on being away from your house for 3 days. I need you to leave the house Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Can you go stay in a hotel? Can you go live with family members for the weekend? Want to take a drive to Arizona? That kind of thing. If you can't leave the house completely, I'm then saying, okay, you'll have to find somewhere to take yourself, the kids, the pets, from 9 a.m. in the morning until 5 p.m., Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So give us that window period to get people through, because we are having 50, 60, and 70 showings over 3 days of homes. They're literally lined up outside the door, the agents with their clients, and following agents in. As one group goes in, they come out, the next agent goes in. All it's still, again, with face masks, limited numbers of people, disclosures for COVID signed, Clorox wipes, the works, okay? So with that being said, we just launched a listing over in Lake Elsinore. The listing was priced at $425,000. About 1,800 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, really nice, clean, move-in ready, new paint, new carpet. We had close to 70 showings over a three-day period. We ended up with 20 offers on the property, and it ended up selling for way over list. And I can't disclose because it's not closed yet, I can't disclose what those numbers are, but it sold for way over list. And the buyers are having to compete heavily. So I want to show you a little something here. It's a graph of the Lake Elsinore market. And basically I just pulled up, when I did my search, I ran $400,000 to $500,000 in price range in residential properties, single family residence, no condos, standard sale in Lake Elsinore. And the data that I show is in January, we had 41 active listings. And in February, we have 28 active listings. That's almost a 40% drop in active listings in 1 month's time. And as you can see, we have 1 month of inventory. Now, what does that mean? When you have less than a month of inventory in any market, you have an absolute seller's market. There is no way around it. I will tell you though, as 30-year veteran agent, I'm telling people right now, both buyers and sellers, it's a great market for them. It's a great market for sellers because you are going to get top dollar for your house. It's a great market for buyers though, if you can compete. And if you've got the wherewithal to stay in the game of competing, it's a great market for you because you're going to end up with a 2.75 to a 3% interest rate. Unless you have some bad credit issues, then you may get hit with a higher interest rate. But even if it's at 3.25 interest rate, it's free money, you guys. This is a market that I say that's like free money. Why do I say that? Those of you that were young, let's say you might not have even been born yet in 1985, interest rates were 17.5%. Okay. So you got to go back and ask your parents and maybe your grandparents about that. If this is the market you're now in, thinking that, oh my gosh, 3.25% is too much. I'm going to wait until I can qualify for under 3. Okay. Please don't do that. This is a free money. We're handing you free money. Go get a loan. Okay. For whatever you can get. I bought my first house in 1988 and I bought it for $75,000. And a lot of people go, yeah, but see, the prices were really low. Yeah, but the interest rate I got on my first loan was 10.5%. If we do the math and we fast forward, that would be like me buying a house right now at 3%. That is like $400,000, $350,000. So remember this when you start thinking about the numbers. Don't think about the big number. The big number of buy a house for $450,000, paying $20,000 or $30,000 over list price. Don't think about that. Look at the monthly payment. Your monthly payment right now in almost every market that you are looking for a home in is going to be less than rent. And you're going to be the owner. You'll be paying for your own mortgage instead of paying someone else's mortgage. So as a buyer, you need to be highly competitive, highly competitive. Now, as a seller, you have to know what to prepare yourself for. When I prepare my sellers for listing, I say, listen, your house is going to sell in the first weekend on the market in most cases. And if it doesn't, it's either in a price point that is high for that area. So like if we're talking about Corona, Riverside, Lake Elsinore, if you're in the $900 million range, those are high price points. Okay. You might be on the market a little longer. If you're between 600 and 800, you might be on the market just a little bit longer. Maybe, and when I say longer, I mean like 4 more days, not just a weekend. So the catch is though, is that you've got to get that price point, that list price in the sweet spot to drive a ton of traffic to your house, and then let the market itself and the buyers drive where you're going to land on the price. Okay. So sellers, if you're working with me, remember, I come with a lot of knowledge. So be confident that we know what we're doing with this market. If you're not working with us, then I would challenge you to make sure your listing agent is doing some of the things that we do. Okay. And you happy to talk to you, call me and say, hey, I've got somebody else I'm working with, but they're doing it this way and this way. And I'll tell you why we don't do it that way, or we do. Okay. So, however, when I prep you to sell your house, I'm going to tell you, be prepared to sell it in the first weekend and be prepared to close in 30 to 40 days. Nothing's going longer than that. Now, what is the challenge of a crazy housing market for sellers? And why is it we have less than 1 month of inventory. Let's talk about that term of 1 month of inventory. In a normal market, where it's not a buyer's market and it's not a seller's market, just normal, which by the way, California very rarely sees that market, okay? We are one extreme or the other most of the time. However, when we do have a normal market, it's 6 months of inventory, give or take, okay? So 6 months of inventory means that if we didn't list another house ever, that the buyers would absorb all the inventory in 6 months. What we're seeing right now is if we don't list another house right now, the buyers absorb that inventory in less than 30 days. I mean, it's just insanity, okay? And this is the housing crisis that we're seeing right now, because it is a crisis. We're seeing no inventory for people to buy and high demand. It's economics 101. However, it's a crisis because when you've got people needing housing and you have sellers that say, hold up, I'm not selling. I'm not selling my house because I have nowhere to go. And I'm not going to make myself homeless just to take equity out of my house. Okay. This is where the strategy sessions start coming in. I'm doing a lot of strategy sessions, future pacing what that seller can do in the future. So we're looking at people. And by the way, if you don't have a motivation to sell, you're not a seller. There has to be some motivation there. So if you have no motivation to sell, just sit tight. You love your house. It's all good. You're not moving anywhere. You're not leaving California. Just stay there. But if you have a motivation to sell, and here's some motivation items that you would be looking at. Maybe there's a divorce. You have to, separate your assets. Maybe your parent or you are getting older and you need to downsize to either a single story, or you need to downsize to an assisted care facility, or you have to go to senior housing. Or what we're seeing a lot of is people are saying, I just want to be next to my kids. My kids moved to Florida. My kids moved to Tennessee for work. They moved to South Carolina, okay? Texas, they had a little weather there. But my kids are living somewhere else and I want to be closer to my kids. They can't be close to me because they had to go where their work is. But I can move because I'm retired and I can sell my house and go where they're at. That's motivation, okay? Maybe you have been in your home for 25 or 30 years and the house is just too big. You're an empty nester. And you're like, you know what? I think it's time that I plan for my retirement. I got 5 more years left on my job and my kids are all out of the house. The house is too big. Should I sell right now and pull that equity out? Because we are in a high market for sellers. And then what do I do? So we strategize. Okay, here's some plans. Maybe you go rent for a little while. Not a problem. You're putting a ton of money in the bank. And by the way, one of the things I want every homeowner to understand, and this is not a political statement, this is reality. Our government, whether it's federal or state, wants to get a piece of the capital gains tax that is not affected on a real property, a primary residence property, okay? So what that means is if you lived in your house for 2 years or more as your primary residence, and you are a married couple, you can take up to $500,000 tax-free out of that house. It's a huge, huge thing. And see, people think that that's just for big corporations or rich people. It's not. It helps us, the people on the ground, okay? You live in your house for 20 years and you paid $150,000 for it 20 years ago, and that house is now worth $500,000. And you are a married couple, you each get to protect $250,000 of the profit out of that house. No tax. You put that in the bank, you got a nice nest egg, go rent for 6 months. Have the luxury of determining, where do I really want to live? Do I want a condo down on a golf course in Palm Desert? Do I want a townhome down in Oceanside? What do I want? Where do I want to live? And you have the luxury of having your money in the bank already to do that. So renting is not a bad thing when you have that luxury, okay? We have people that are moving out of state. They're selling and they're saying, I'm moving out of state. I say, great. Do you have a house secured over there? Not yet. Okay, so some of the things my clients have done, they've gone and looked at Airbnbs and talked directly to the owners of those Airbnbs or VRBOs in those other states and said, can we rent from you for 4 months? We need a house to live in. We're selling our place in California. Can we rent from you for 4 months, not just nightly? And some of these Airbnb and VRBOs are doing that. So that's an option. You can also go rent in those locations because their rental markets are a little bit looser than they may be in California, and the rents aren't as high. So moving out of state is a really big thing. It's an actual real bonus for people leaving California. The other thing you can do is just go find an apartment. Go get an apartment, get a condo, go rent something. Don't worry about renting and thinking you're wasting money. You're not wasting money. You're buying yourself leverage time to be able to sell your home and be able to then get what you really want and not be pushed or rushed into the decision-making process of competing for multiple offers without having your house sold. Oh, by the way, you can't get an offer accepted right now in California that's contingent on the sale of your house if your house already isn't like a week away from closing, and we can confirm that, or already closed. There isn't a seller or a listing agent out there that's going to recommend to their seller to take a contingent offer right now. It's just not going to happen. Even the new construction builders are not wanting to take your contingent offer. So be careful when you start going out there and looking at options to buy. We really need you in a position where you can actually have more power by sacrificing a little bit and renting. So that's some of the tips about working in a crazy housing market. The inventory of less than 1 month of inventory is a real crisis, you guys. It truly is. And we're not going to come to a crash. I want to be very clear with that. This is nothing like 2008, 2007. It's nothing like the 90s crash of California. Some of you may have remembered that. Okay. 90s crash was because of aerospace jobs leaving. 2006 and 7 crash. 2008 was because of funny money loans out there. We call them ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets. Those aren't around. Do you know that over 53% of the homes in the United States have equity or are owned free and clear? I mean, that's huge. That's generational wealth right inside your own little house you have, you know? So it is a time to sell. It is a time to buy, but you've got to have somebody working strategically with you to make it happen. So don't forget who we are. We've been here a long time. John and I are still in the business. We still work it. And in fact, we work it in 2 states. So we are in Southern California and in Northern Idaho. So, and because I also coach for a large national business coaching company, I talk to realtors across the country all week long. I have a lot of connections to other agents in other markets. In fact, I just connected one of my clients who I'm selling their house with an agent in St. George, Utah. I've connected people with agents in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas. So if you need a resource and you need someone that you trust to refer you a good real estate partner in another state, give me a call. It's what we do. So I'm here to help. Again, it is a buyer and a seller's market. If you have any thoughts of selling your house, if you need any advice on getting your offers accepted as a buyer, please contact us. We're here to help. Have a great weekend. And remember the Arnold Group for all your real estate needs. Talk with you soon.